Happy St. Patty's Day. My mother, who is German, my dad was Irish many generations back. And my mom said to me one day, you give a lot of attention to that St. Patty's Day thing. And I said, well, yeah. And she said, well, do you do the same for Oktoberfest? Good point. So from here on out, I'm going to give gratitude and celebrate Oktoberfest as much as I celebrate St. Patty's Day. So just saying, because aren't we built with more than one? That being within us, that DNA, that structure that keeps us all together. There's more than one ancestry in there, isn't there? And a lot of people do their trees and they see all this, oh my God, I'm part Scandinavian, I'm part, The truth is, we're all one, though. And that's why we can celebrate St. Patty's Day even if you're not Irish. Because we're all one. So find a way to celebrate today. It's an excuse, but use it and celebrate the life that we have. You see? So today's talk, and I wanted to tell you something. That meditation, the silence part, was a little less than 2 minutes, and it's one of the few times in the many, many meditations I've given that no cell phone went off, no coughing, no sneezing, no trains, no planes, silence. And that's the power of prayer. You see, because some of us find it uncomfortable to be in that silence. Anybody want to admit to that? Yeah, right? And why would it be uncomfortable? Because it's unfamiliar. And I remember when I started thinking, well, what the hell is this meditation stuff? But when someone converted it to just shut up, sit down, shut up, I wonder, well, I could do that. And then I learned to quiet the mind at the same time, a progression, right? Well, of course, the first time I sat down to be quiet, the dog's on my lap, the car's tooting next door, the lawnmower shows up, and the coffee parts, because I wasn't tuned in yet to having the world be quiet with me. I was in a church in Arizona eons ago, and right during the meditation, a train came by right there. I'm doing the meditation, and I'm like, oh my God, the noise. They didn't hear it. They had already closed it out because they were used to it. Would have been nice if they told the guest speaker that was going to happen, because I was like, oh my God, But they had learned. It didn't matter what's going on in the outer world. With God, there's only one presence and one power, and that includes the noise around us. We quiet it up. We quiet it. You've done good today. That's my point. Today is lesson number 4 in our 15 commitments of conscious leadership. And if you take the word 15 commitments of conscious relationships, it applies the same. So this is a great book if you want to pick it up. It's this lesson 4, which has to do with speaking candidly. Now, candidly can be taken a lot of different ways. One way is truthful. One way is no bars hold. Just do it. But what I want to share with you today is speaking candidly involves more than just speaking your truth. Because in the world that we live in, knowing what our truth is harder than speaking it. We have to know what the truth is. For many of us, when we speak our truth, it might come out a little on the sideways. And a higher octane, and the energy and how we feel, the emotions take over. Next slide. So I want to recap. I want you to see this because it's important. This thing that we call, I want to be right and I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Now, it's a subtle thing, unless you're aware that you do it. It's a subtle thing, us wanting to be right. And it's crucial because committed to being right is below the line behavior. So when we're curious, we stay open. Our whole chakras, everything about us stays open. When we want to be right, everything comes back in and we hide again, and you can't be candid if you're hiding your emotions. Okay? So self-awareness, the ability to tell yourself the truth. And that's the first step with being candid. You have to know that there's something else going on before it comes out in a lot of different ways. How many of you ever had that happen? Where the words came out before you realized that they were being spoken out loud? Been there a few times. Curious, committed to learning what's going on. Next slide. And it looks like, because we're in this process, ministries, not just Unity, but All New Thought, and even churches, the Orthodox churches, the religious, spiritual churches are finding themselves dwindling in membership, right? And COVID helped speed that process up. People left and they found hugging a tree was just as good as coming to a community, or whatever they found, or they've abandoned God completely, right? So in the process of rebuilding, because you folks are doing that, we have to do things differently. If we keep doing it the way it's always been done, what will be the result? The same old, right? Which means limited resources, limited people, limited volunteers, limit, because 80% are doing 100% of the work. And that's only 5 or 6 people. So you have a limited amount of what we can give back because we're so busy giving to, because there's so much to be done. Next slide. This is the old stuff. Pop, pray, pay. You know what I mean? Sit down, basket goes around, you pray a little bit, and you go out. Right? How many of you were raised that way? And one of the number one reasons that people come into a Unity ministry after a friend has invited them is they stay because the love offering envelope doesn't come around but once. And that's the sustainability versus we're going to go and do this activity. So here's a hat, the basket, and let's put in another 5, another 10, another 20. And it's always this, and people don't want to be asked about money, right? It gnaws at us. I want to have a message of God. Instead, you're so busy asking about money. So you end up walking away going, well, that was a waste of my hour and a half. You get it? That's old school. Go back one slide. The new way is this. This works. And more ministries throughout all religions and all faiths are falling into what they call the integral ministry practice. And Unity is the forerunner on that. We are moving into that direction. And it means that we have to do our own work in order to be present for that still small voice of God. Because you all know that when you ask God for help, if you don't listen, you don't get to hear it. You have to listen, right? And we can't listen when we're so bogged up with all the other stuff. So we have to find the time to say, oh, hold up, Mo. So we wake up, clean up, grow up, show up. Those 4 aspects of the upness open a ministry to so many things. People want to come into Unity because they want to experience more of God. How many of you came because of that? Right? Our job as ministers is to have that expression be a positive, uplifting one. It's a practical way to experience more of God. Practical, not unrealistic, but very day-to-day basics. And when we learn to get ourselves out of the way with all the ups, we find God more often in our lives. And that's the quest. The quest is to see and feel and experience God more often, however that is. So wake up is wake up. I'm in charge of that relationship with God. I'm the one that can connect or choose not to connect. There is no one, nothing ever going to tell me I can't, right? Because it's yours. The cleanup is when we go below the line and we create discord in our lives, it's up to us to clean it up. Because when we're in discord, guess what's not coming through? Love, God, good. We stymied it because we're not clean. And we have to clean up when we go below the line. And we have to grow up. You have to start, you get to. because I have to remember these are no requirements. These are get-tos. You get to take responsibility and accountability for what happens in your life. Now, some people don't want that. They'd rather stay in that state of, you did it to me. You see? Because then as long as I stay in that state, you did it to me, I get to be right. And right is more important than experiencing God. We do this. This is the human element. And so the grow up is to acknowledge that I am made in that. And I've been taught how to cover my butt at all costs. Show up. Be present. Try not to be someplace else. Be accountable and responsible and be present for all that you experience in your life. And this is the fun part. When you acknowledge all of this going on in your life, you can actually start having fun. Do you want fun? Here's a thought. How about having some fun with God? See? We go, huh? No. God, no. No, God doesn't have fun. Oh, he sure does. Right? He, she, it. Right? You know how God draws that line in the sand? And he laughs when we make all those plans? Right? Because God can laugh at that because he knows, she, it, knows that I've got something bigger and better planned for you. But if you want that line, go ahead. Right? And that's the fun part. Draw the line, but know that it's also erasable. Because things change like that, right? Apple Watch. Anybody want to buy one? I got it for sale. I'm waiting for a buyer. It's a deal. It's a Series 7. I want $170 for it. It's yours. I'll give you 2 charging cables, and I'll give you 12 different colored bands. This thing drives me crazy. And what do? Wear it every single day. And that's what we do. We do things that drive us crazy and we don't change. Right? So today I woke up and went, well, I got no takers for the watch. And then this little fine print, you need to post to social media. The thing I'm trying to get away from. Right? So this is how that line in the sand is drawn by God. And we can enjoy the laughter. Because here's the thing, when you draw that line, say to yourself, if not this, then something better. Because that something better is beyond our ability to imagine. But with God, that imagination is unlimited. Our imagination is unlimited too when we tap into God. When we do it alone, it's boxed. We can only see so much in our human limited brain. Next slide. Let's recap real quick. Taking radical responsibility, learning through curiosity, it's huge, number 2. When something doesn't go quite the way that we thought, what if? What if you would have just breathed and go, well, that didn't work. I wonder what this is about. Versus God did it to me again. I knew that was never going to work. Why did I even bother? Right? Yeah. Instead, I wonder why that happened. I wonder where the good is. Let me find the good. What a great affirmation to be able to say, well, that didn't work out really well. I wonder where the good is in that. By making that affirmative statement within you, you open up the portals to see the good much sooner than wallowing and digging your own grave in the backyard. It's important. And feeling all feelings was the last time I was here. A little harder, but you need to do these 3 in order to do the 4th one that I'm presenting today. There's an order to it. Because feelings will control our lives. And as much as women have the expression of emotions more often than the typical male, you guys have them all too. You just haven't been trained to share them. And in intimate relationships, we start to break down the barriers of our communication. We start to get more honest in our relationships. And that's when we start to really connect with each other. So today, move on, Miss Liz, thank you. Speaking candidly. Speaking candidly. You see, once we can get in touch with what the emotions are, with whatever's going on in our lives, once we can name it, then we can start looking at, can I speak it? Can I speak it? In this chapter, it says, one of our spiritual faculties is judgment. You know that, right? So what does that mean on a spiritual level? The word judgment, not Webster's dictionary. Judgment is the ability to discern my next course of action. Do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go back? Do I go forward? Where am I going? And we take in the universe and say, I'm going that way. That's judgment. Has nothing to do with judging another human being. That's Webster's dictionary, which comes in handy. Many often it doesn't. This is what it says in here. It's a great little quote, paragraph. I judge that my spouse is disrespectful toward me and others. I've never said that. Have you guys ever said that about your significant other? Probably not. I withhold this judgment and withdraw a bit in the relationship. I don't trust her. From this place of withdrawal, I see her through the lens of my judgment, which means that I see her as disrespectful. Once I see her as disrespectful, I look for evidence to confirm that I'm right about my judgment. And guess what? When I look for evidence to prove that she is disrespectful, I find it. What I seek, I find. What we give our attention to grows. That's what Unity says. So when we judge somebody, we're actually going to do everything it takes in our minds to prove that we're right. And that's below the line behavior. So when we're being candid with another human being, that means we're willing to be wrong about them. Now, this is beyond leaving the toilet seat up. It's much more than that. It has to do with being in a relationship or being on a team. How many of you are on teams? Yeah. Where two or more are gathered together, there's a team. So you want to be a cohesive house, right? In your teams. You want everything to be smooth and effortlessly and free-flowing. But that's never going to happen when there's any member of the team that is not being candid. It creates energy blocks. It creates a discord within the team that somehow it just doesn't feel right. Or it feels absolutely not right. This doesn't work. And it's time for the team to sit down and talk honestly and candidly. And the trick to that conversation is to, as you're sharing it with another human being, that we don't take it personally. What? How can you do that? They're talking about me. They're saying, you do, you do, you do. And I'm supposed to sit there and not take it personally. Yeah. Because what they're really talking about is themselves. But does that mean we ignore what's being said? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. When you're in a relationship with another human being, which is everybody you talk to, whether you've ever met them before is irrelevant. You are at that moment in a team. Whether you're in a checkout line, whether you're in a car, somebody passing you. You know that, right? Everything we do involves another human being. And so in that process of wanting to see, curiosity, how are we engaging with other people? Below the line or above the line? And when we withhold how we feel, it's below the line. You're hampering the team from being successful. Now, in corporate America, it's real easy for that to happen because some people can hide in teams. How many of you are a hider? Yeah, that's okay. We just stay quiet, let them do what they do. Yeah, we're good, yeah. We go home and we say all these wonderful things about the team we're involved with. If they only knew. If they would just ask me my opinion. I know that's not going to work, but you haven't said anything. You stay silent. So you get to be unaccountable for what's happening in your life. And we're talking about being accountable for everything that happens in our lives. So when you withhold, you're being below the line, and you're hampering the team, and you're shifting the energy. That's why the energy at the front door has got to be clean, squeaky clean. Because we want that person to walk in. Those of you that are new today, we had a good crowd of new people. That energy's got to feel good, right? Otherwise, you're going to walk in and go, I don't know. And they don't come back. And we can't figure out why. Now, unity's not for everybody, but it is for the 9 or 10 that walk in the door. They're seeking. They're looking. And more than likely, we have what they want, they're seeking for. Communion. Feel good about God. Not being admonished. Not being told that they're a bad person. Don't we want that? And that's being above the line. So in the curiosity state, we're going to show a video, and it's a short, little less than 4-minute video.
Candor. Are you revealing or concealing? Brought to you by the Conscious Leadership Group. Find them on the web at www.conscious.is. Unconscious leaders conceal relevant facts, opinions, beliefs, judgments, and feelings about issues and the people involved in the issues. Withholding happens because, down deep, leaders are afraid. They may be afraid that if they really said everything they have to say, one or more of the following would occur. They would look and sound selfish. They would lose the ability to control the outcome and the people involved. They would appear odd because no one else is being totally candid. They would be judged and criticized for their thoughts and feelings. Other people's feelings would be hurt. Their lives would be filled with conflict and drama. Conscious leaders face all of these fears and choose to reveal. They do this because they know from experience that the cost of withholding is greater than the cost of revealing. When they conceal, they know that it costs them personally. It costs them their integrity, and this leads to a loss of energy, passion, drive, and creativity. It costs them their freedom, as they have to pretend to be something they aren't. It costs them deep, authentic connection with themselves and their teammates, as people relate in increasingly superficial ways to one another. Conscious leaders also know that withholding costs the team and the organization. Because all relevant facts, stories, and feelings aren't shared, the best decision often doesn't get made. It takes longer to make decisions, and once they're made, people don't fully align around the decision because they've withheld their true self in the process. When people aren't candid in meetings, it often leads to something we call the meeting after the meeting. In the end, more drama is created by concealing rather than by revealing. So what does a conscious leader do? First, they check with themselves and they ask, if I were to reveal everything about myself and this issue, what would I say? Sometimes it helps to actually write this down. Second, they notice the gap between what they're revealing and concealing, between what they're saying out loud and thinking silently in their head. Third, they welcome their fears and get curious about what they can learn from them by asking, if I were to fully reveal, what would I be afraid of? This fear is usually coming from a desire to control. They notice how their concealing is an attempt to try and control other people, themselves, or the outcome. They welcome the fear and the wanting to control. Fourth, they notice how withholding is costing them and their team. The cost of not being candid must be greater than the fear of losing control, or they'll keep concealing. Finally, they ask themselves, am I willing to reveal? Yes or no? Try this for yourself. If your answer is yes, then reveal yourself by doing the following. 1. Let go of being attached to being right about your view of reality and this issue. 2. Reveal yourself for the purpose of being known, rather than to win an argument or make a point. 3. Speak your truth with an open heart. Being candid isn't being blunt, aggressive, bullying, or toxic. Once you decide what your truth is, ask yourself, what is the most loving, kind, and respectful way for me to say this? Conscious leaders choose to reveal. So, are you revealing or concealing?
You get to choose. And here's the part, all you have to do is be aware that you're making a choice. First step. And then once you become aware, am I withholding or not, then you get to say yes or no, do I want to reveal what I'm withholding? And there's an art form to how you communicate that. When you take the energy around the feeling, it's communicated in a way that the person walks away going, hadn't thought of it that way. Or they walk away going, that SOB, I don't want anything to do with that person ever again. It's accountability and responsibility. You get to make the choice of how you want to communicate that. And there's two ways that it happens. You made me feel disrespectful when you dismissed me at that meeting last week. You made me. I don't know about you, but another person can't make me feel that way. But I can choose to feel that way. So the revealing to that person is, at last week's meeting, I felt dismissed. And I was wondering if we could reconvene that conversation. Now, do you think you're going to be open to that? Maybe. Maybe. Now you've had an honest conversation with another human being, and they get to say, you know, that was a good idea. I didn't think of it. But I was so focused on getting my point across, I didn't hear you. Because they're so busy being right. And we do that naturally. Being right feels good. You know, it's better than chocolate chip cookies or Oreos. It makes us feel good at the cost of another person. And that's the part where we get to regroup that. So I want you to go home with the homework. A little unorthodox, but trust me on this. Each of us, individually, have their own perceived idea of what God is. Right? We've each been raised differently. Through the time we've decided, we've made choices about what we think God is or is not. I want you to take out a nice clean sheet of paper, lined or not, chalk, cardboard, I don't care. But write down 5 things that you like about God. What are you going to get from that? You get to focus on that. You get to choose. So instead of a negative judgment, we're going to do a positive judgment about God. And that judgment will bring forth more of what you see God is. You'll be giving that the attention. And I'm assuming on those 5 things that you mentioned about God, you want those things, right? If you don't, please don't put them on the list. Because if you put them on the list, if you're not honest with yourself about what they are, then you're going to manifest more of that. 5 things. And let God come through on those 5 things repeatedly. Who wants more wisdom and understanding directly from God? Everybody raise your hand. Okay? Because God's wisdom and understanding, love and clarity give us more good, more expression. And if you want that, it's an easy thing to get because we focus on it. Choose to focus on the good of God in your life, and magic will happen. And magic's good because it's always in your best interest to follow the wisdom and guidance of God. And so for that, I am grateful, and God speed you on your journey of expressing who you are, the good of God. And so it is. Amen.